Good afternoon. My name is Theo. Theo, the headliner guy. I want to show you guys how simple it is to make or to cover sun visors. And this is going to be one of those situations where it's going to be quick and simple. This is a sun visor. This is what it looks like. I took the cover off and then I laid the pattern out on my fabric, which this is the fabric that I have laying on my table. As you can see, I have it laying on my table and I have it turned with the foam side up and the material side down. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the existing pattern that was originally cut out for this particular visor, and if I'm not mistaken, it comes out of a Honda Accord. And I'm going to take a marker and I'm going to mark the pattern or trace the pattern. Therefore, I could use this and I don't have to do any measurements. Sometimes you would have to flatten it out in order to get it to be precise. Sometimes it'll fold up on you. But anyway, it's nothing difficult. You know, I used to take my visors to a shop that does upholstery work, and he used to charge me a nice amount of money, and just got to a point where I decided to learn how to do the visors myself. Here you have a opening for this right here. This is the clamp that holds up the center portion of the visor. You have the end, which is this. This is the end where the light fixture goes in, and then you have the center clamp that holds the visor as well. And as you can see, I marked, traced, whatever you want to call it, the pattern out, and this is what it looks like once you finish, if you can see that. And then once you do that, then you want to get a pair of scissors, and then you want to cut around the edges. Sometimes when I do this, what I'll do is I don't always cut it precise. The reason being is to allow myself some room to tuck, or to, if I make a mistake, I can kind of somewhat compensate. But what I do is I'll cut it just enough to where I'll be at least probably about an inch or so away from my original mark. Because when I mark it, I kind of mark it a little, more than what it really actually calls for. So it's best that you mark it a little bit more than the actual size. That way you could kind of compensate for any mistakes. But once you cut this pattern out, and my scissors are somewhat dull. They're not like how they used to be when I first bought them. They were actually some pretty good scissors. But as you can see, they're not actually working fast as I want them to. But yeah, you cut around your pattern. I'm not to stand up here. Just give me a second. But once you cut your pattern out, let me move this back a little bit. Once you cut your pattern out, then you're going to take your pattern and you're going to measure it up to the visor. And that way you could see pretty much where you're at. And for this particular job, you only need about maybe a yard of fabric. So it doesn't really take, it don't even take a yard, but I always order a yard just in case. And then once I cut that out, what I'll do is I'll take my visor and I will line it up to my fabric like such to make sure that everything lines up properly, and then you fold it, and this is what you should get. This is what it looks like. Because what you're going to do is when you trim, you're going to trim off maybe an inch or a quarter. You've been mainly an inch, because you're going to tuck the fabric inside of these creases right here. If you can see those creases, you're going to tuck it inside of those creases. But the first thing you do, or you want to do, is you want to spray, put some adhesive. I use Wellwood. There's another adhesive you can use. It's a 3M80 or either high temp adhesive for this. The same thing I would use for my headliner. But I like Wellwood. I'm kind of comfortable with it. There's another one that's out. Right now I just don't have the time to show you. But this is pretty good. You want to spray your adhesive on your pattern like this. Spray your adhesive on it. And then you want to place make sure that you have, where you make that circle, you want to make sure that that's that circle right there, right there in the middle, to your right side. And you want to make sure that this here lines up to that circle. And this right here is going to go on the outside. What I would normally do is I would place it directly in that groove, and then I would line it up to its specification where it fits snug or perfectly. And then you want to, once you line it up, you want to spray your visor as well. Not only spray the fabric, but you want to spray your visor as well. And once you spray that, you go ahead and tack it in place. You want to get it nice and smooth on one side. Now, you have a mirror on this side here. This is what it looks like. You're going to have a mirror. Your mirror is here. Usually, what I would like to do is I would like to cover the mirror. I usually would like to cover the mirror with some tape. And the purpose for that is so when I get ready to actually do my adhesive and glue it, I would like to be able to cut it out where it doesn't be any glue on it. But if you give me a minute, I'm going to pause for a second. Just give me a minute. Okay, I got my tape. I'm going to take my tape and I'm going to cover my mirror because I don't want any glue or adhesive on my mirror when I bond everything down. So I just put a little tape over it, just some little regular, you can use painting tape or whatever you want to call it, but this is what I use, this type of tape. This is going to prevent the glue from being all on the mirror. Keep it from, you know, looking kind of tacky or messy. Then once I put the glue on, the tape on there, then I'm going to spray this side. And also remember, I still got a little glue on here, so it's still kind of drying. It's not, still kind of, you know, wet, so it's no big deal. It ain't completely dried yet. But I'm going to take my fabric and I'm going to pull it sort of nice and snug at the back. I'm going to pull it. And then when you do tack it, you don't want to too much emphasize on the tape part. You want to kind of, don't press down on it. Kind of don't put too much pressure on it. Basically, is what I'm trying to say. You just want to put it on the visor and not the actual mirror, because we're going to cut that out and then we're going to lift it, and we don't want it to be too bonded. Now, once you get your adhesive on your visor, you want to kind of shape it, because we're going to trim. You want to shape it. And then we're going to cut. We're going to trim. We're going to trim along the edges here, probably about, if you can see that, probably about maybe a quarter of an inch or a quarter of an inch, either one. But I like to do it, like I said, when I do mine, I kind of overcompensate just in case, you know, for error. So I trim around the edges nice and smooth. Get some nice smooth edges. And that way when you tuck, it kind of looks somewhat professional. You know, right here I got just a little off line here, but that's okay. All we got to do is just snip that off and trim it evenly. That's why I like to say, that's why I like to kind of cut, you know, my fabric more than it calls for. Make sure that everything is nice and tight. Now I'm going to take my edges. I usually start from the bottom on this side here, because then I'm going to work my way around, because we're going to tuck the edges in like I showed you before. We're going to tuck those inside. So I like to start from this side of my visor, the opposite side of the electrical cord. And you would have to open it up. Open it up. And then when you open it up, this is what you're going to see. That's what I was telling you. We're going to tuck it in here. It got a little space to it, but we're going to tuck it. And what I use to tuck it, give me one more second. I'm going to pause for us. All right, once again, we're back. I was telling you about another adhesive that I use. It's called a high temp. And this is a pretty good product. It basically costs the same. I used to get it from a shop, a company that they moved to Texas. So now I got to try to figure out where I'm going to get that from, because it's a pretty good product. When we tuck, you make sure, another thing too, make sure you got all your tools. You're going to need a flathead screwdriver. And that flathead is going to allow you to tuck your fabric into your opening. And that's why I say leave, you know, a bit, like at least a quarter of an inch. So when you tuck, you would be able to tuck those seams in deep enough to where they would stay. Now I have another trick that I'm going to show you what I do in order to make sure that it's going to stay. Is I use an adhesive, well, not an adhesive, but I use a bonding glue and I'm going to show you that glue in a minute. But anyway, you tuck one side first, that's this side, and then you tuck the other side, which those two sides are going to wedge together, and I'm going to show you in 1 minute once I get it all going, and then you'll pretty much have a idea of how to cover sun visors. So once I get this in, I'm going to show you how it should look, and once I show you, then I'm going to go ahead, and then I'm just going to go ahead and finish this one, and then we'll be through with this visor. Now, with those two sides, the top side and the bottom side, tucked together, this is what it looks like. And this is how you cover visors. Now, once I do that, I'm not going to just leave it like that. There's a glue that I use. It's a very good glue. It's not a Gorilla Glue. It's E-Lite, and it's a very strong bonding glue. But anyway, this is what it looks like going all the way around. I'm going to go ahead and finish this up, and then we'll go to the next phase of covering sun visors. Okay. Now, once you do the bottom part of the visor, then you do the top part of the visor. And this is what it looks like when you do both sides. You see here, you got a little space there. When we ain't put that blue, when we put the glue on there, you're not going to see that. See, when I press down on it, see, it's a smooth edge. You see? It's a smooth edge. And this is how it should look. But anyway, this is how you do your visors, tucking from both sides. We're not finished. We still have more to do. We've already done one side, tuck in, and then we're going to do the other side, tuck in. Okay? Let me go ahead and finish that, and we'll be right back. Okay, this is how it looks when you got it from when you finish both sides. You see? This is how it looks. You see? All the way around. You tuck. Now, when you get right here, you're going to have an excess piece right here. Okay, what you want to do is, if you look inside of here, you're going to tuck. Let me move it. You're going to tuck this inside of here. You're going to tuck it in there. When you look at it, you'll see there's grooves in there, just like there's grooves in here. And you're going to tuck it in there, so that way it'll fit snug down around this bar. And once you tuck it, it'll give that shape that you're looking for. And if it's it's like a tab. If this is too much fabric on there, you kind of want to cut a little bit. But like I said, I try to keep a lot on there, or more than I need, the reason being so I could compensate. In other words, I overcompensate. So I'm going to go ahead and tuck this in, and then once I tuck this in, we'll be back, and then we're going to cut our mirror out, and then we'll be finished. Okay? Be right back. Okay, we're back. Now, this is what I was trying to explain to you right here. When you come over here, we're going to tuck that into that space. Now, I know you can see it right here. You're going to have a little opening right there. But once we put our glue, we're going to tuck, and then you won't be able to see that. It'll eventually vanish. Now, I want to overemphasize this, and I can't do it. I can't stop overemphasizing, because right here in this bar, you're going to take your screwdriver and you're going to push right up in this here bar area. And if you push not hard, you don't have to push hard, but if you push your fabric down, it'll go into that bar, and it'll give it that look right there. You see that? That's tucked into the bar. You know what I'm saying? Okay, once you do that, then it gives it that look, and then you should almost be finished. Okay? Now, what we're going to do now is we're going to cut out the mirror. You get your a blade that looks like this. This is like a sharp edge razor, but it has a handle on it, and you can get these here from Home Depot. It costs about $3, and then it comes with a refill, another extra blade. You see the shape of this mirror? You don't want to start all the way up there. You want to just go in the middle and make an X, and then we will work our way till we get to where we want to be. Okay, if the razor's sharp enough, you know, you wouldn't have to do no more than just make an X. You have to put just a little pressure on it. That one didn't cut for me. But once you make that X, it's gonna open up your material to where you would be able to then, you see that? That's my tape. I can work my way through that to get that tape off, okay? Because I have to take that tape off in order to tuck my fabric underneath the frame of the mirror. Just go up in there and you just pull your tape off. Pull your tape off like this. See, that's why I tell you don't mash down on, don't press too hard when you bonding that glue to your visor frame. And once you get all of the tape off, sometimes you got to be careful because sometimes you'll pull that lining from the headliner, which is that foam, that backing, which is this right here. Sometimes you'll pull that off. Because sometimes, I mean, it wouldn't matter how careful you are, you would get a little glue on there. Now, see, this is my opening. This is going to help me or allow me to get to my mirror. And this is the mirror. What I'll do is, I'll cut, get my scissors, and I'll cut just a little bit at a time until I get to where I want to be to do my tucking. And cut just a little bit on all four corners until I get to where I want to be. This is what you need to see. See, right here, you want to see that because this here has to at least be enough to tuck into here. To tuck into here. Now pull this back so you can see. It's going to tuck up under here. Come a little closer. It's going to tuck up under here. Right up under there. Okay? It's going to tuck under there. Once it tuck under there, you're going to get the look. Give it a tuck. And I can show you. And then we're going to take a quick pause. Show you what it looked like to tuck. And then you got to be careful because what happens is sometimes when you put too much pressure or pull up on it, remember this is glass, you could crack the mirror. And if you crack the mirror, then you've defeated the purpose. Because you could also do it where you bypass the mirror. And you could cover the mirror to whereas you never know that it's a mirror up under there. But, you know, if you want to go back with the mirror, you have to be extremely careful because you can crack the mirror. Okay, let me give you somewhat of an example of what we're doing here when we're tucking. And then we're going to take a break or pause. And then I'm going to come back with the completed product. And then we're going to expound on it. Okay, now, before I crack the mirror, let me show you. You see here? That's your tuck. That's your tuck under your mirror. okay? And we're going to do that all the way around until we tuck around the mirror, okay? Let's take a pause. We'll be right back. Okay, we're back. As you can see, we've gotten it all the way around to this point. I left this open because I wanted to continue to explain to you exactly what we're doing here. But as you tuck into the creases, like I said, you have to be extremely careful not to crack the mirror. When you get to a point where it's tight, you want to take your scissors and you just want to cut just a little bit to where as it loosens up just enough for you to continue to tuck the creases. Now, when I started doing this, I've been doing them for about maybe 4 years now. But when I, started doing them, it was kind of somewhat difficult. But it just, after you do your first one, all it does is build your confidence. And then you do your second one. And then you start developing your technique. And then after that, it all becomes second nature. But in this video, I hope that, it was informative. I hope that you, that you learned something. And I hope that you will be able to replace your sun visors. And then instead of having to spend a whole bunch of money doing them, getting somebody else to do them, you could do it yourself. And I hope that you like my video. And if you did like it, or you do like it, give it a thumbs up. And also, hit that button and subscribe to my channel. And I also have another video that's coming out. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to be showing you how to repair and replace a headliner. And I've seen a lot of people do headliners. And, like I said, I'm going to show you how simple it is. And some of the stuff that they, techniques that they use can be confusing, especially for somebody who have never done a headliner before. But what I want to do is bring my headliner video to you, and hopefully you would be able to learn how to replace your headliner. And I really appreciate you guys for tuning in. Like I said, if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. And I ask that you subscribe to my channel. And hopefully we'll see you when I do my replace headliner video. And until then, keep the faith. And don't let nobody tell you what you can and cannot do. Because with God, all things are possible. This is what it will look like once you finish. Thanks, you guys. Thanks for tuning in. Give my video a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe.